Good morning and good evening. I'm Alice from USC. Welcome audience in Zoom and the living streaming platforms of USC graduate education. This is 144 USC event. Here you will get the latest information about different majors, learn about the cutting edge knowledge in various fields, and enrich your mind. Today, we are honored to have two guests to share with us, Enjoy Pacifici and Terry David Church. Enjoy Pacifici, she is Chair and Associate Professor of Department of Regulatory and Quality Science at USC Alfred E. Mann School and Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Science. And we also have the pleasure of welcoming Terry Church. He is an Assistant Professor of Department of Regulatory and Quality Science. And also welcome Michelle to join us today. Before we start our event, I'd like to start with a few tips, and then I will hand over to our guests to start our event today. Gentle reminder for audience in Zoom to keep the microphone muted. The webinar will be recorded and may be used as a video material for production. During the webinar, you can do some marks for your thinking or questions. At the end of the webinar, there will be a Q&A session of no less than 15 minutes. Send your questions to the screen through the chat box. We will try to answer as many questions as possible. Okay, today's webinar is about exploring career pathways and unleashing potential in regulatory science. Now turn it over to our guests. Let them introduce themselves and let's get started with today's share. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi everyone. My name is Michelle Wang, and I am from the USC Department of Regulatory and Quality Sciences. I'm the program specialist for recruitment and advisement here, and I'm also joined by our Professor Dr. Unju Pacifici and Dr. Terry Church. So they will begin the presentation by giving you an overview about our graduate programs and the different career paths and training opportunities that are available in our program. And then I will move on to our program admission requirements and application deadlines and other resources that can support our students through their time in the program. So without further ado, I'll hand the mic over to Dr. Pacifici.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you today. I wanted to kind of share with you our program and to explore if our program would be a good fit for your future plans as you think about your career path. So you can find more about our program from our website, regulatory.usc.edu. In our program, really, we have the vision to help to develop skilled professionals for regulated sectors to shape the future of global health. So these are all health and wellness products that are regulated by the United States Food and Drug Administration. And in China, of course, your FDA is the NMPA, National Medical Products Administration. Our mission is to provide unparalleled education and experiential training to empower current and future professionals engaged in developing and commercializing medical products. We have 6 graduate streams. We have various master's degrees. We have a doctoral degree for those who are already in the profession, and we have certificate programs as well. To give you a little more of an examination of our different regulatory science master's programs, we have the Master's in Regulatory Science, and the graduates from this program go into industry, government, consulting, and academia to meet the challenges to facilitate the delivery, development and delivery of medical products, as well as healthcare products. And then we have a master's in medical product quality. And this is really important as our supply chain becomes globalized and becomes more complex and complicated. We have the Masters in Management of Drug Development for really kind of the early development from bench to early clinical trials, what we call translational science, part of the drug development process. And then we also have a Master's in Regulatory Management for those who already have a doctoral degree, either MD, PhD, or DDS. If they want to go into industry, we have a shorter master's program for those who are at the postdoc level. Exciting news! This fall, we have a new master's that will be introduced. It's called Masters of Science in Clinical Trial Management. And we developed this program with the recognition that clinical trials is a big arena. There are so many, thousands of new molecules being developed all around the world. In fact, in China, as the China innovative drug development enterprise is maturing, we're seeing a lot of clinical trials being conducted in China that are positioned to be introduced around the world. So we envision the continued demand for trained professionals to work in the clinical trial arena around the world, including within China. Our program consists of core courses in medical product regulation. You can specialize in drugs and biologics. You can specialize in medical devices, especially if you have like an engineering background. Medical device regulation, medical device industry might be an interesting area for you. We also have courses in foods, in quality, clinical trial management, etc. So our curriculum is composed of core courses and electives to be able to customize your program to meet your needs and your interests. What does the future hold? Well, in this field, the future looks pretty bright. The demand for regulatory professionals is estimated to increase year over year. In fact, even during the global pandemic that we just experienced, we continued to see increasing demand because we needed workforce to develop all the medical devices, diagnostics, vaccines, and therapeutics. Even in the middle of a global pandemic, the demand did not quiet down. The demand for regulatory professionals is well above the expected increase in most other scientific and technical fields. But this means that this is really an area of high demand that's above and beyond other scientific arenas. And I guess for us, it's good news because we're in the business of educating professionals to go into this field, that there is a mismatch between job postings calling for advanced degrees and the number of regulatory professionals who hold advanced degrees. What does that mean? That means our graduates are in high demand. And I just spoke to one of our recent graduates. Actually, she's not even finished with our program. She's in her last semester, and she is already fully employed and was actually trying to recruit our current students. So, just gives you an idea of how the demand is high, and that demand is high, not just for anybody, but demand is high for well-trained graduates. And there is a growing demand for regulatory professionals in trained international topics because regulatory is global. So I keep talking about demand for workforce. So where are the jobs? Well, you may have heard of industry jobs in pharmaceutical companies and medical device companies, but that's just one variable in the entire global equation of job prospects. You can get a job at the FDA, US FDA, or in China's case, the NMPA. NMPA has central offices as well as provincial offices, and they all need people to conduct the regulatory review process and inspection process. There are academic research institutions, big companies, small startup companies, clinical research organizations. There are nonprofit patient-centric or patient advocacy organizations. And there are also positions available if you're business savvy in venture capital and investment firms, because this arena garners really the highest investment by venture capital firms and investment units. And everybody in this ecosystem is working together to develop new products to address the needs of patients all around the world. And we think about the demand that we have now for the work that needs to be conducted now, but we really need a global workforce to develop, manufacture, and market therapeutic products of tomorrow. Some products we see that they are already in existence. They are very high-tech products that are for personalized medicine or precision medicine, wearable mobile apps, connected devices, combination products, and AI-driven closed-loop systems. We're just really, seeing the tip of the iceberg. A lot of this technology has so much potential for products that we can't even imagine. In fact, not only on the horizon, but already on the market are gene editing products. Most recently, we have the CRISPR therapy product that received an approval for sickle cell anemia. So you can imagine all the other products that will come that would be introduced for single gene mutations. Also AI, artificial intelligence, and virtual reality products. All of these new technologies hold enormous potential to improve the speed and success of creating new medicines and new medical devices. And this is, so I've kind of maybe introduced you or kind of excited you about the prospects of the future in this career. So I'm going to hand it over to Professor Terry Church to kind of go deeper into the numbers of it all.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for having us. We are very excited to be talking to you about this area, especially as it relates to new and creative ways that people can apply themselves. The good news is you can make a very good living towards becoming very financially secured in this environment. It will take a little hard work, definitely, but with that and continued training, you can get promoted to roles with increased responsibility and salary. Next slide, please. A PharmD with an MS in regulatory science can position you to reach really high potential in terms of your overall ability to earn funds in this area. Next slide, please. Asia represents the third largest concentration of regulatory affairs professionals in the world, including roughly 24,000 employees focused largely in the pharmaceutical, with about 74%, and medical device, about 19% sectors within the Asian market. Next slide, please. Just under one half, or about 47% of regulatory affairs professionals in Asia work for large companies with 5,000 or more employees. This is within norms when compared to the global workforce, where ranges fall between 40% in Africa and 65% in Latin America and the Caribbean. The spread of professionals that work for large companies is consistent across the medical devices, pharmaceutical, and biotechnology sectors. So there really is a place for just about anyone, whether it's a large company or small company. There is plenty of work to be done. Next slide, please. As you can see with this slide, what we're looking at is the highest level of education completed, and a majority of people have their master's degree working in this space. It is possible to work in this space with your bachelor's degree, but keep in mind your salary will be commensurate with the degree that you hold. Next slide, please. This is part of a report that was issued recently looking at the way the sectors are divided out. And Asia itself is divided into 5 core geographic subregions within this report, including Central, Eastern, Southern, Southeastern, and Western. China falls predominantly into the Central Asian category and Eastern Asian categories based off of this report. And although the pharmaceutical sector tends to be the most dominant industry in each region, Eastern Asia and Southern Asia and Western Asia each have fairly significant proportions of regulatory affairs professionals that work in medical devices. And this is very similar in terms of what we see for drugs as well. Next slide, please. So what makes our program unique and will add to the strength that you have in terms of seeking out a job? All of our faculty have at least 20 plus years of industry experience and have been involved in the industry and still remain involved in the industry. We have guest speakers from industry who come into our classes who really are subject matter experts and provide a real richness to the learning environment. We have strong relationships with the industry to help students get their internships, get jobs, and I'm happy to say that unlike other programs, most of our students who graduate with their master's degree at the time of graduation already have a job offer in their pocket. It's a wonderful thing to see. Our courses are held on weekends and they meet just about every 3 weeks, but this gives our students an opportunity to work and explore internships during the week that they normally would not be able to in a traditional program. There's also the ability to customize and do either full or part-time scheduling depending on the need of the student as well as the classes that are provided. And we do offer quite a bit of experiential training in industry projects, translational science, and regulatory research, all of which we'll talk to you about a little bit tonight. Next slide, please. So what you see here are our wonderful and dedicated faculty. They are composed of full-time, adjunct, and secondary appointments, and each of them brings a very unique flavor and experience to the roles that they have within our program. Next slide, please. But this work would not be possible without all of our amazing and wonderful staff who help oversee our operations and make sure that we are meeting the needs of our students in a way that is meaningful for the students as well. So I will hand it back now to Dr. Pacifici to talk to you a little bit about our TRACS program.
Thank you, Dr. Church. So one of the highlights of our program is that not only do we have really a wonderful collection of courses that really provides the academic training, but we like to combine that with experiential training. So I call it like you learn in the classroom and then you apply it in our experiential training program. So we have several different experiential training tracks, and one of them is called tracks, which is team-based regulatory and quality science solutions. And that is spearheaded by Dr. Susan Bain, our faculty. And it's a program that allows an interdisciplinary team of students to work on a project for a company. So these projects are sponsored directly by a company, and they last an entire semester, usually composed of 4 to 6 students. And they provide students with real-world experience in project design, execution, and management using a team-based experiential platform. And some of the examples include regulatory strategy for product licensure, clinical research and commercialization, clinical trial design, market launch strategy, and competitive intelligence. And at the end of the semester, the student team presents the company with a report and presentation. It's a pretty rigorous program consisting of over 1,000 hours during the span of a semester. It's usually a 15-week project, and our student team interacts directly with the company through a weekly interaction, and the project is supervised by our own faculty. These are our examples of our sponsors. Sometimes you see more than one representation of a company like UU Pharma. That's because they have given us, they are what we call a repeat customer. They have given us 5 projects and more on the horizon. And oftentimes these companies, they interact with our students in the student team and are so impressed that on average, there is at least one a job offer per semester. And these projects also are linked with scholarships that are presented by the companies. And so for each project that is sponsored by a company, we dedicate one named scholarship per semester. So we have scholarships. We have 6 departmental funded scholarships, and we also have one named scholarship, and we have something like 4 to 5 industry sponsored scholarships every year that our students can compete for. So that's one stream of experiential training. The other stream of experiential training is supervised by our faculty, Dr. Benson Kuo, and it's what we call Translational Regulatory Consulting Center. And it is very popular with our international students because it provides a career blueprint. So our international students come in, and during the first 9 months, they cannot work outside of the university as part of their visa requirement. But during this time, they can participate in the consulting projects of the Regulatory Science Translational Center. And they get real-world experience. And using that real-world experience, they can go ahead and apply for internships. Usually, like the first summer, they can. It's after 9 months of being at school or 2 semesters, they take on an internship over the summer, and after they graduate, international students can go ahead and participate in the OPT training, where they can work in industry for 3 years because our programs are STEM designated. And then if they choose to stay, after that, they can go ahead and secure a sponsorship with working visa or residence application. For Dr. Benson's Consulting Center, all regulatory science students are eligible. They devote about 10 hours a week on projects. They join weekly consulting team meetings, and they participate in the journal club. And these are examples of the projects. The quality system regulation, pre-IND packages, Q submissions, clinical trial monitoring, regulatory intelligence, all of which can be pursued. And if they are successful, students can go ahead and talk about these projects during their internship interviews. They enhance professional experience, foster team building spirit, cultivate public speaking talent, and provide essentially an internal internship for the first 9 months so that they can be positioned, the students can be positioned to pursue CPT internship successfully. And then following that with the OPT transition. The third stream of experiential program that we have is the Kim Center for International Regulatory Science, and that is supervised by Dr. Larry Liberty. And in this stream, students work on kind of global policies, to apply regulatory science to regulatory and health solutions in the international setting. And the Kim Center has various cluster of activities, including the Regulators Solution Center. And so we get, at the center, we get projects that are sponsored by regulators like the FDAs around the world for specific projects, and our students get to work on those projects. These are examples of projects that are being run out of this Regulatory Innovation Lab at the Kim Center. We have a student looking at the regulatory science educational programs. We have a student who's looking at the regulatory reliance pathway for Africa. Another one looking at ICH guidelines in medicine development, and so on. You can look at the rest right here. Now, another co-curricular opportunity, which is another form of experiential training, is headed by our project administrator, Roxy Terturian, and that is our research team. And these are our student researchers. They can be undergrad students or graduate students, and they work on kind of customized projects that are in line with their own research interests. So unlike the other ones where the program is sponsored by a company or sponsored by an investigator or sponsored by a regulatory authority, these projects are actually created and developed by the students based on their own interests. And they get to construct their own research question and then follow their line of investigation through literature search, and then present to the team, create abstracts, and present at national meetings. I just came back actually from a national meeting with one of my students from the research team. And you learn a lot of the communication skills and presentation skills, as well as writing skills. And this is Roxy, who oversees our student researcher program. So I hope this gives you a good idea of our program, our academic program, our experiential program, our research program, and give you some insights into the promise of a career path in this field. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Michelle Wong, who can tell you a little bit more about the details, so the administrative details of our program. Michelle?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pacifici. All right, so now that everyone has learned more about some of our different programs and all the career and experiential learning opportunities available, we hope that gets you all interested in applying. So next slide, please. So first of all, we want to get everyone excited about what it's like to be a graduate student here at USC. So I'll quickly just share some interesting facts and perks of being part of our Trojan family. So here's some background information on our school. USC offers over 400 world-class graduate programs across 20 professional schools and our liberal arts college. We have a population of over 28,000 graduate and professional students representing all 50 states and more than 135 countries. And another fun fact is that USC has one of the highest international student populations in the US for the past 15 years. And this is what makes USC a very culturally diverse campus. And we think that it really adds richness to your educational environment and your overall graduate experience. Next slide, please. And there are also a ton of perks to being a graduate student here. So our two campuses are conveniently located just a few miles near downtown Los Angeles. And this means that you have access to so many internship and job opportunities. It's very easy to build your network here, especially in the regulatory, technology, and business industries. And it's also very easy to get around with our city's public transportation. A lot of our students would just go down to the beach or downtown LA on the weekends, and there's just always something to do in LA. So for sports fans, you can go to a Lakers or Dodgers games, and the Rams are also playing at our very own football stadium. Next slide, please. Okay, so hopefully that got everyone excited about joining USC and being a prospective graduate student in our program. So let's just take a look at our admission requirements. First of all, every applicant is required to complete the USC graduate application. We also require 2 letters of recommendation that has been completed by your recommenders. We would like your current resume or CV showing your most recent academic and work experience, your personal statement that addresses your interest in this specific degree and program, your official transcripts issued directly by the registrar from the schools that you've attended following high school. And for international students, you also need to meet USC's English proficiency requirements. So all of the English test scores must be sent directly from the testing agency, and that includes the TOEFL or the IELTS. And then upon our admission committee's review, some students may be invited for an interview as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's a list of what to prepare in order for you to apply. So again, for international students, you do need to schedule your English tests like the TOEFL and the IELTS, and then have your resume ready. And that should include your relevant work, education, and extracurricular experiences. 3, contact your recommenders. So if you have your recommenders in mind already, it definitely helps to give them a heads up about the process and that you'll be requesting a recommendation letter through our application system. And then again, it's very important to confirm our application deadlines. And I'll drop the link, which leads to that page through the chat box for everyone. That way you can just bookmark it and have it as a reference. Okay, next slide, please. So if you're an international student, we encourage you to review USC's English language proficiency requirements just to determine if you need to actually take one of the tests. So the TOEFL, IELTS scores are valid if they're dated within 2 years of your intended start term. So for example, if you are applying for the fall of 2024 cycle, then the university requires your English scores to be dated August 2022 or after. And then if you are applying for spring 2025, then your scores should be dated January 2023 or after. And please note that all these scores must be sent electronically to USC directly from your testing agency. The school does not accept the paper scores. Next slide, please. So our master's and graduate certificate programs welcome new students into our programs throughout the year, which means we do have admissions for every spring, summer, and fall. And we understand that everyone's schedule is different. So right now we're currently in the middle of the fall application cycle. So highlighted on the screen here, for international students, we are currently in round 2, which means all international student applications need to be received by April 1st, which is just about a week away. So there's still time to get that application into us if you're interested. And if you are a domestic student, then the deadline would be June 1st. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so just some additional tips for everyone. Make sure that your personal statement is about 1 page in length, and make sure that you answer the prompt. So the question is, what about our program interests you specifically? So make sure to address that in your one-page personal statement. And again, for your letters of recommendation, it's very important to give your recommenders a heads up and ask them to send it to us directly if necessary. And then make sure to keep in open communication with our department and also the graduate admission office, because there may be documents that are required for certain students, and just make sure that you're checking your email and responding to anything that is still required for your application to be complete. Next slide. Okay, so the USC Office of International Services, also called OIS, is the main campus office that serves all of our international student population. Everything from obtaining your initial student visas to becoming employed while you're here in the US. And OIS has a lot of resources on their website for new students and also prospective students and current students. Any relevant information in terms of what our international student would need, you would contact our OIS advisors. Next slide, please. So there's also something called a CPT and OPT. So the easy way to just remember that is for CPT, it allows current F1 international students to participate in paid off-campus academic internships during your degree program. So that means once you enroll with our program, after you complete 1 full year of enrollment, you would be eligible to apply for CPT if you are able to receive a job offer here. Click. Click. Okay. And then the OPT option is for students that have already graduated from the program to still be able to gain work experience in your field of study here in the US. Next slide, please. And then in our program, in order to be eligible for CPT, you would enroll in a course called RSCI 596. And it's essentially a course where all of our students who receive a job or internship offer would register, and you can actually get a 1 unit credit towards your total electives. So you're still working here in the company, but you can also get that 1 unit towards your total degree requirements. So that's something that a lot of our international students would try to take advantage of once they complete the 1 full year of enrollment. And then, we also offer a lot of professional development support for our students, and these all include employer info sessions, our annual career event in the fall, LinkedIn. So we always try to share as many job postings that we have access to through our LinkedIn page and our internal job board. And then we also offer resume and writing workshops, as well as interview prep workshops. So these are all career and professional development resources available for our current students and alumni. This is our LinkedIn page, so if you're able to access that, feel free to add our page and follow our feed. Next slide, please. And then Connect SC is USC's internal job board for students and alumni here, where you can find information on all the different jobs available, different employers and career center services, workshops, Trojan Talks, and other areas of interest. Next slide, please. Again, like I mentioned, our department offers different resume critique workshops, and interview workshops throughout the year for our students. And our virtual employer info sessions are also a great way for students to meet recruiters from different companies. These are hiring companies that present current and future opportunities for our students and alumni. It's usually about an hour long, and the employers and their human resources team would give our audience a brief introduction about their company, including what they do, how they operate, what the company culture is like, and what the background of the people that they hire are typically like. And these companies are also discussing how to apply for the different positions and internship opportunities available. Okay, and then again, our annual career event is held every year in the fall, and these are just a list of the companies that have attended our previous fall career events. We have a lot of big names on here like Abbott, Johnson & Johnson, Amgen, Boston Scientific, Philips. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, please send them through the chat box and we can answer them here. I will also send a few more links through the chat box, so feel free to visit our website for more information. I will also send the link to the application portal directly, so you can just click on that and start the application for everyone who's interested. And feel free to follow us on our social media. So our Instagram handle is ePacifici_USC RecSci. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you for your wonderful talk, Pacifici and Terry Church and Michelle. Thank you for sharing the information about application. You are very kind to give us more details. Thank you, Pacifici, and the church invite you to join. We believe that our audience have gained a lot of valuable information. I'm not an expert in this field, but I'm also very interested in our major and program, especially after listening to the share and explanation of our guests. Regulatory science covers a very broad field. I have learned a few years ago, a quarter of products in the US market were related by FDA, and this encompasses a wide range of industries. So in terms of regulatory science, have access to different companies in different fields would be a very different experience, and that's was a really interesting about regulatory science, and that it's possible to find a position and match our own interests and strengths. Terry Church mentioned and show us some data. Regulatory science, relevant jobs will have a good salary. It's really great. In addition, regulatory science is increasingly valued in China. Many universities and companies have also set up a relevant department and carry out relevant training and learning, such as going to USA, and USA have some related short-term program. China has also made great efforts to cultivate interdisciplinary talents, improve ability of regulators, and help the development of the industry and the market. So many people are also interested in this area and want to learn some basic information about regulatory science. They have some questions about courses and career development. Well, now we are also seeing that some questions have sent some the chat box. I will read it to our professor to answer. The first one is, Professor, would you mind to explain this a bit more in details of the 10 hours per week And on projects in the consulting center, what kind of the projects mostly got paid?
Thank you for your question. So the consulting project works are not paid. We do have student worker positions that are paid, but the consulting center students are it's a voluntary consultant intern positions. It is essentially to get experience, especially for international students, to get them ready to enter the corporate world. So during the first 9 months, international students cannot take on positions outside of the university. So this way, the consulting center provides them with experiential real-world project experience that they can then use to secure an internship position when they are positioned to do so. The types of projects are often regulatory related. Regulatory intelligence projects are one of those. For example, for Dr. Ko's Translational Consulting Center, these are academic investigators who are researching new drugs or new devices or new uses of existing products. And they are essentially trying to translate what they find in the laboratory to something that they can develop into therapeutic use. And so they want to understand how they can conduct clinical trials with their new product, how they can maybe eventually take it to the market. So the regulatory intelligence projects are one of the most valuable ones, because then the student teams can research what other products are available for that therapeutic area, how they went to the market, what clinical trials were conducted, what animal studies were conducted, and how long it took, and so that it would help them. It would help the investigator come up with a regulatory strategy for their program. So I hope that answers the question from Matt.
Okay, thank you. And the next one is, hi, Professor. I know the USC is a private university. My question is, which is more suitable for international students, private pharmacy school or public pharmacy school? What are their differences? Yeah.
In the US, we have a differentiation between private and public schools. Public colleges oftentimes get government funding to help offset some of the costs, while private universities have a more expensive cost. However, that cost is usually offset because private universities offer more tuition benefits and lower tuition fees for certain individuals. Private universities in the US tend to offer a more personalized experience for students, where you get more intimate classrooms and settings and you're given more projects to work on. Whereas in public universities, they're typically larger with a really wide range of individuals who come into the programs and also into the courses. Private universities tend to have smaller, more intimate classrooms where you actually learn more. From my opinion, you learn more because it is a more tailored environment. I don't know, Dr. Pacifici, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I think we have great public universities in the United States and we have great private universities in the United States. The question is what area of training that you are pursuing. So when it comes to regulatory science, there aren't that many. And I have to say that our institution, USC, is the only one that has a department dedicated to regulatory and quality sciences. And so you go where they have the best training for the career that you are pursuing. Our role is not to get you that degree, but to get you that career. So it is, in our program, that's the whole reason why we have experiential training that is coupled with academic training, That's why Dr. Church and I both talk about how the goal is get our students already secured in a job before they graduate, because it's not the degree in hand, but it's the career in possession that we are really pursuing for all of you.
Thank you. The next one is, hi, Professor. If I submit GRE score to show my ability, does it count it as holistic review if academic GPA not that strong? Thank you.
Absolutely. If you are uncertain about your academic performance, because when you're in undergrad program, you're kind of young. You go into that first organic chemistry class and maybe you're kind of shocked or traumatized. But that's not you. You want to demonstrate that you can actually perform at the highest level academically. And GRE is one of the ways that is, in a standardized manner, demonstrate your capabilities. So in addition to studying really hard to get that good GRE score, making sure that your personal statement is written well, thoughtfully, not AI driven. Don't use ChatGPT to write your personal statement, because we want to hear from you. We want to hear your voice. We want to understand how you think. And, perhaps you can explain what happened if you have some low scores in your undergrad, curriculum, and kind of talk about your potential and your commitment to pursuing academic excellence.
Alongside that, make sure that you choose 2 people to provide a good recommendation for you in your letter of recommendation who can also speak to your potential.
Okay, thank you. The next one is, hello, Professor. I would like to ask which project is more suitable for the pharmaceutical engineering major. Thank you.
So engineering background is fantastic background. I think that biomedical engineering, pharmaceutical engineering, wonderful, because it helps you to think in a very very standard way, very thoughtful way, in a very structured way, which in medical device and pharmaceutical industry, we want things in a structured way because you want consistency in quality. So there are 2 areas that I would recommend. One is going into the medical device arena, and we have medical device track within our regulatory science, so you can customize your curriculum to enter medical device industry. The other is medical product quality, and medical product quality is a fantastic area. You go into the quality assurance, quality control arena. You can go into manufacturing regulatory, what we call CMC regulatory, chemistry, manufacturing, and controls. So you are part of the pharmaceutical manufacturing team, dedicated to ensuring quality of the products. And so with engineering background, we think this is a fantastic area, because as I mentioned earlier, with the product supply chain becoming so complicated and so complex, making sure that we check quality at every point along the way becomes critical, because that's how companies get into trouble. They get into trouble because somewhere there is a weak chain that they did not detect. The weak chain breaks, and then the whole company gets into trouble with the regulatory authorities, either in the United States or abroad. So it's really important that companies have regulatory and quality professionals on board to make sure that companies perform well every and each time. And this is an area where there is a huge shortage. And so we want to train the professionals to go into industry. We also want to train the professionals to go into NMPA, the regulatory authority, because not only do you need people in the industry, but you need people to regulate the industry. So if you're interested in the government sector, regulatory science is a great way to enter into that arena.
Thank you. And next one is Xiaoxin said, how about business background? I will graduate from business school and get a Bachelor of Management. Thank you.
So the question is, do you have some science background? I'm sure you probably have some solid science background. So it's always recommended that you have some science background. Having said that, the entire industry is regulated. So the industry, a company's the road to success hinges upon the success of its regulatory submissions. So if you don't have products that successfully pass the regulatory process, then you don't have a product. If you don't have a product, you don't have a business. So what business are you going to manage without understanding the regulatory requirements of the industry? So that becomes really important. So even if you want to become a CFO or chief financial officer of a regulated company, medical device company or pharmaceutical company, you should still understand the regulatory requirements. So if you don't have any science background, it might be a little bit challenging. So I would say for you to take a look at our website carefully and see if the kinds of courses that are listed are the kind that you can go ahead and digest and pass successfully. If you're dedicated, there's no reason why you couldn't be successful, because there's a lot of things that you can learn on your own as well. So I wouldn't say no, but I would say it might be a little bit more challenging than those who have, for example, biomedical engineering background or pharmacy background. But again, feel free to reach out to us and we can chat some more. Because even if you are pursuing a business major, I don't know what scientific background that you might actually have.
Okay, some questions in our live streaming platforms. And the first one is, how are cosmetic advertisement and the efficiency labeled on products regulated to provide this from misleading consumers? Thank you.
That's a very good question. So our FDA regulates a lot of different products, as does NMPA. So everything from vaccines and biologics, all the way to dietary supplements, to cosmetics. And you don't want the FDA to regulate IV antibiotics at the same level as they do lipstick. So cosmetics are regulated much less rigorously than drugs or medical devices. But more recently, US has passed the Modernization of Cosmetics Act, called MOCRA. And so the cosmetics are being regulated a little bit more stringently than they were just about a year ago. So now you have some things like we have manufacturing standards for cosmetics. You have to report adverse events for cosmetics, and you have to register your facilities with the FDA, which none of those things we had to do before. What does that mean? That means that the cosmetic industry, whether it's within United States or abroad, now need to hire regulatory professionals because they have to get ready to receive adverse event reporting, and they have to go ahead and process them, and then they have to report them to the FDA in a very timely manner. And so all of these new requirements for the cosmetic industry is actually going to be opening up a new career path for our students. So yes, about 2 years ago, the cosmetics were not very well regulated by the FDA at all, because we had the law that didn't require strict regulation. But then last year, new law was passed, and now cosmetics will be more strictly regulated. What does that mean? That means our students have to learn how to learn, because regulations can change overnight. And so they have to now comply with the new requirements.
Okay, thank you, Professor. And the next one is some people noted that the apply before completing 12 units of regulatory and quality science coursework. And some people want to know which courses does he need to take additional courses if they are part of his undergraduate studies? Thank you.
The 12-unit requirement, Michelle can answer that about what that means.
Hi, everyone. So that's just the university policy. We don't allow students to complete all of the course requirements before you're actually officially admitted into the program. So you do have to, you're able to take a few of our classes just to test the waters to see if it's a good program fit for you, but you also need to apply, which means send in your graduate application and then be admitted before you can be eligible to receive that degree.
However, that probably does not apply to international students. We expect international students to come to the United States with our degree program. So the 12-unit requirement is for domestic students who just want to take a course and see how it goes before they actually apply to the full degree program. But for international students, you apply to the degree program and you have to apply for the F1 visa, and you have to come here in person and take the entire curriculum. So I think the 12-unit requirement is something, it's on our website, but it's really primarily directed toward our domestic students or students who are already in the United States. Now, with regards to what courses you should take as an undergrad, Dr. Church teaches a lot of undergrad students, and so he can give you some guidance.
Definitely. So just in terms of the types of things that we look for when we are getting people ready for regulatory science, definitely a good background in STEM. But the units that we offer in our undergraduate program related to regulatory science have recently been transferred into a minor. So you can actually come into the program with the right requirements that you need in order to make yourself successful in our program. But we do offer some of these programs to our international students who are coming in and may need to have a little more background in science, or maybe feel like they need to have a little more grounding in terms of what regulatory science offers. So we do have that capability as well.
Okay, thank you. And we all see the Zoom screen. The audience want to, Professor, I just hear you the tracks under the regulatory science program. What are the tracks? And perhaps the professor can introduce our different research directions related to different tracks. Thank you.
Yes, so there are some major tracks which are related to the different master's programs that we have. So we have Masters in Regulatory Science, which is a 36-unit comprehensive program for a more broader regulatory science track. And then we have a Master's of Science in Management of Drug Development for the translational science track. We have the Master's in Medical Product Quality for those who are interested in the quality track. And then we have the Master's in Regulatory Management for those who already have a PhD, who would like to advance in the industry career. And then we are introducing our new Master's in Clinical Trial Management for those who are interested in pursuing a career conducting clinical trials. But then within our Master's in Regulatory Science, you can also kind of customize, because we have so many courses and you can't really take them all in a 36-unit regulatory science program. So the students have to kind of choose their electives and choose their track. For example, students can enrich their program with courses that are directed toward medical devices. So they can take the introduction to medical product regulation, followed by introduction to medical device regulation, followed by quality systems in medical devices, and so on, so that by the end of their time with us, they are somewhat of an expert in the medical device regulatory pathway. Or they can customize for drugs and biologics with drugs and biologics regulation, quality systems in drugs and biologics, and so on, so that when they are finished with our program, they are somewhat of an expert in drugs and biologics. They can also enrich their program in quality, so that by the time they finish, they have a master's in regulatory science with a focus in medical product quality. Or they can take the whole master's in medical product quality. So in essence, what we're trying to say is that because of the regulatory science is such a vast field with so many positions, that our students can actually specialize in the segment of regulatory science that aligns with their interest and their career pursuit.
Okay, thank you, Professor. There has a question is the price of drugs and medical devices regulated by FDA? Thank you.
No. In the United States, FDA bases its regulatory decision on safety, efficacy, and quality, not on price. And so FDA makes decisions on the scientific information, and then it's up to the other people, other organizations, like we have the Medicare and Medicaid service, the CMS, that pays for drugs and devices for the elderly population and the low-income population and other specific populations. They get to determine whether or not they're going to reimburse a therapeutic product. And then we have a bunch of insurance companies that make their own decisions. But in the United States, we don't have price controls officially. We have formularies and we have reimbursement negotiated prices, but we don't have a single payer system. And so pricing becomes more of an art. So companies, when they have an innovative product, can price their products based on what the market will bear. So it's what we call a free market pricing. So FDA does not get involved in price setting or pricing review.
Oh, thank you. By the way, I would also like to ask, under the wave of AI, whether tools such as ChatGPT can better replace us to write some documents one day, or to take another example that I can think of, the use of robotic arms. A dentist seems to be in short supply all over the world, but there seems to be a lot of applications for dental treatment in some countries, and professional doctors say that this machine are very reliable, but people seem to have less trust in the level of trust in machines or some devices in the application for machine in the market. And in this regard, how can our regulatory science play a role, perhaps in terms of better regulatory process for the production of devices and their enter into the market? Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Church, do you want to talk a little bit about AI?
Sure. So AI is an amazing thing. It allows us to do some really unique and wonderful things, but unfortunately, it is not perfect. It's not going to take away jobs tomorrow or the next week or maybe even in the next 10 years, because with regulatory, you really need someone who can synthesize the information and make it into something useful. And unfortunately, none of the programs so far have the capability to do that. I've tried many, many times to get AI to think like a regulator, and they get very close, but there is still the hallucination where the AI is not sure what or how to respond to a certain question. So it begins making up what it thinks the question or response to the question should be. So I think that it's a great tool to help us in crafting emails if we're not quite sure what to say, or maybe even crafting certain sections of a resume. But outside of that, you really need to have the finesse of someone who has the experience in the field to be able to write some of the documents that we use on a regular basis. As for the robotics, do you want to take that one, Dr. Pacifici?
Absolutely. You know, robotics in the surgical suite has already been in place for a long time. Robotics in research automation has been in place for a long time. Kind of, you know, automation in automotive transportation is in the works. I just passed by a self-driving car the other day. You know, I think that's robotics and AI all combined. And so I think the industry will be embracing or will continue to embrace the cutting edge science and technology. The challenge is that the regulators are always behind. Regulators cannot regulate something they cannot experience themselves, or they cannot imagine what's going to come their way. And so industry is always at the forefront, and the regulators always are responding or reacting to what's already happened. So AI, automation, it's already happened. And so the regulators are really grappling with trying to figure out, when is AI a medical device? When is robotics a medical device? So when is a drug a device? When is a biologic a device? How do you regulate combination products that are developed with nanotechnology using biological substrates? So these are things that are already happening in the industry. But in terms of the regulators, first of all, they have to hire people with software engineering background, with cybersecurity background, with AI and automation background, to be able to even understand how to regulate these products. FDA is really upskilling their own capabilities, and all the regulators around the world really to figure out how to respond in this fast changing environment that we live, which I hope, for my own selfish reasons, I hope there will be an automatic robotics dentistry a practice that will help me make my dental experience more painless and pleasant. So, it could all work to provide us a better tomorrow as we age, but we don't know yet what's in store for us. I never imagined that my Apple Watch would be able to give me EKG or pulse oximetry, but it does. So it's an interesting world that we live in.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Professor. And this our Q&A session. Now we have more than 10,000 views on our all living streaming platforms.
Hi, everyone, all 10,000 of you. Hello, I see you and you and you.
Yeah. And closing to the end, we have can you give some words to our audiences to inspire you, our audiences? Maybe Indra first.
Yes, I can go first. Thank you. Well, it has been a pleasure to be with all of you. Thank you for being with us this morning, to take time out of your busy schedule to learn about our program. We are very passionate about the regulated field, and we're very passionate because they do two things in my view. One is we find a new career path for our students who are really looking for a path of their future that will combine their interests with a successful livelihood in a way that would have positive impact on global health. That's one. And the other is by getting really highly competent students into this field, we are just going to make the world a better place. And hopefully, selfishly, the products that you develop may be the products that I use. So excited to be with you guys. If you have any questions, please reach out and we will be happy to chat with you some more. I'm going to hand it over to Terry.
Thank you. So, yeah, you are entering into a wonderful field. If you have any type of curiosity, if you like solving problems, if you like looking for resolutions to things that represent problems in science, this is the field for you. It's a great place to be. It has wonderful opportunity and great growth, and we hope that you will join us in your endeavor as you look for education in this field and also for consultation in terms of career potential, so that we can help you find the best you for the future.
Okay. Michelle, could you give some words, maybe?
So, just as an academic advisor for all of our master's students here, I can definitely say firsthand that I think our students are all very passionate and ambitious in their academic journey in the program. So, if you found our information exciting today, if you're interested in applying for a program, we definitely look forward to receiving your application, and we hope that we were able to answer all of your questions today. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Indra Pacifici and Terry Church and Michelle. Thank you, audience, for joining us today event. If you need more information during the preparation or when you submit your application, you want to know the progress, you can send messages to USA Graduate Education in all social media accounts anytime to get some help.